Among the many accounts of alien abduction recorded over the decades, few are quite as striking or as unsettling as those of Clayton and Donna Lee. A married couple from Houston, Texas, the Lees claimed that their encounters with non-human beings have not been isolated incidents, but rather a pattern that has stretched across the entire course of their marriage, and perhaps even further back than that. While there are certainly plenty of people who remain suspicious of their claims, the details they provide are among the most intriguing and the most graphic on record. So much so, in fact, that it would make even the most hard-nosed and close-minded among us pause and wonder whether such harrowing details could truly be manufactured. Their story first reached the public eye in 2005 when it was picked up by Local 6 News in Orlando, Florida. From there, numerous media platforms and outlets ran with the account, and the Lees have since spoken publicly about their experiences on several occasions. What they describe is not a single moment of strangeness, but decades quietly marked by events they say they cannot explain. And they would only go public after consulting and working with a respected psychiatrist from Harvard University. As the couple began to awaken to the true nature of the bizarre events that had been running discreetly through the background of their lives for close to 2 decades, they discovered, at least in Clayton's case, that the abductions may have been taking place since his childhood in Houston, Texas. According to Clayton, he was playing in a park in the city when something deeply unusual happened. Without warning, he suddenly realised he was floating in the sky. The next thing he knew, he could see the stars above him. Those stars then gave way to a sea of black, and he lost consciousness entirely. It is a memory that has stayed with him, and one that, in hindsight, he believes was only the beginning of a much longer and more disturbing sequence of events. Even now, Clayton bears a scar on the side of his torso, a mark he cannot explain or account for. He has no memory of how or when it appeared, but he is firmly convinced it is connected to one of these alien interactions. A physical trace left behind by something he cannot fully recall. As more of these buried memories surfaced, even more disturbing details came to light. For Donna, perhaps the most harrowing of all was a memory of being taken aboard a strange, otherworldly craft and having a fetus removed from her body. Following the apparent abduction encounter, she was indeed no longer pregnant. It is a deeply distressing experience for any couple to go through, but it is also a detail that comes up time and again across claims of repeated alien abduction. Researchers who take these accounts seriously have pointed to such cases as potential evidence of some kind of experimentation or hybridization program. While that notion strikes many as outlandish nonsense, even within the UFO community, it is a concern voiced by a number of investigators who otherwise approach the subject with a very serious mindset as far as the UFO and alien question is concerned. Before making their claims public, the Lees sought out professional guidance. They approached Susan Clancy, a psychiatrist affiliated with Harvard University, and ultimately worked with her in an effort to better understand what had been happening to them. Clancy used hypnotic regression to help unlock what appeared to be repressed memories of these encounters. Crucially, Clayton and Donna were regressed separately from one another. Despite this, each of them recalled very similar experiences. Their accounts corroborated one another in striking ways, and they even produced drawings of the entities they claimed to have encountered that bore a notable resemblance to one another. It is worth noting that Susan is far from a believer in alien abductions. She has interviewed and worked with a great many people who claim to have been abducted, and it is her professional belief that at the core of such incidents are deeply rooted psychological issues. The Lees, however, rejected this interpretation in its entirety. While Clancy's theory might offer some explanation in cases involving a single individual, Clayton and Donna found it far less convincing when applied to a married couple whose encounters are so remarkably similar. To suggest that both partners independently developed the same psychologically driven false memories, memories detailed and specific enough to closely match one another, is a much harder argument to sustain. It simply doesn't hold as much water. Several months after their story entered the public arena, Clayton and Donna appeared on the O'Reilly Factor, joining the program from Houston. In response to the general questioning of their mental state and the pointed suggestion that they should have simply kept the experiences to themselves, Clayton was direct. He stated that such encounters were too momentous to keep to oneself, and beyond that, the more they spoke about what had happened to them, the more they discovered that among the many critics there were other people who had gone through remarkably similar experiences, people who, until then, had been suffering in silence. Some of the details the Lees shared during the interview were particularly fascinating. When describing her surroundings during the abduction encounters, which she admitted took place in different locations, Donna spoke of occasions aboard what she referred to as the ship. She described it as being very cold and made entirely of metal. It is a description that carries an almost clinical quality, sterile, functional, and deeply uncomfortable. Equally interesting was their description of the beings responsible for these abductions. The entities the Lees encountered did not fit the typical image of the so-called grey alien that most people tend to associate with abduction cases. Instead, Clayton and Donna described them as looking human, but not quite human. They were tall, slender, and blonde. Within the broader ufology community, beings matching this description are commonly referred to as Nordic aliens, a classification that has appeared across numerous abduction accounts over the years. It is a description that diverges significantly from the more commonly reported short, large-eyed grey figures, and it raises its own set of questions about what exactly these beings might be and where they might come from. Donna also made a point that has echoed through abduction accounts for decades. She noted that the beings did not really use their voices to talk. This would suggest some form of telepathic communication, a detail that has appeared in encounter reports going all the way back to the beginnings of the modern UFO era and the first documented interactions with the occupants of mysterious unidentified craft during the late 1940s. It is one of those recurring elements that, for researchers, lends a certain consistency to the broader phenomenon, connecting cases across different decades and different parts of the world. The Lees were adamant about their motivations for speaking publicly. They denied making any money from their claims. Their reason for coming forward, they said, was for the sake of others who had experienced similar things. People who were sitting at home thinking that they were losing their minds. Donna stressed the point plainly. This does happen to normal people. Clayton, for his part, admitted that he wouldn't necessarily advise others to go public the way they had, acknowledging that people would likely think they were nuts. However, he also stressed that anyone who suspected or knew they had undergone similar experiences should reach out to one of the many groups and organisations available to them. It is a stance that reflects a genuine concern for others, and a commendable one at that, given the personal cost of going public with such claims. Whether or not one believes the Lees, their story raises a question that extends well beyond their particular case. What would any of us do if we found ourselves in such a bizarre and confusing predicament? Would we seek out help from others who might have gone through the same thing? Would we want to tell the world, both to get it off our chest and to have others investigate and get to the bottom of the mysterious events? Or would we simply keep it to ourselves and not speak, for fear of being labelled crazy or even mentally unstable? Perhaps the fact that we would even need to ask such questions is not a reflection on the individuals who might experience such admittedly bizarre incidents, but a reflection on society itself, a society that for all its advancement remains very much the same as it has been for thousands and thousands of years, one that treats anyone who wishes to even suggest anything outside the accepted social norms as an outcast. Whatever we make of Clayton and Donna Lee's claims, if there is even an ounce of truth in what they describe, we have to ask what exactly is taking place here. We are left with people being taken from their homes or their vehicles, all manner of experiments conducted on them without consent, and the beings responsible appearing to act with no concern whatsoever about a collective response from humanity. In fact, there seems to be an almost complete disdain for it. If we set aside the more conspiratorial ideas about government compliance in such cases, what remains is an extraterrestrial race or series of races with seemingly no regard for human autonomy. Some have suggested that these abductions may be the result of some form of highly secretive deal, an arrangement that allowed such things to take place. And as uncomfortable as that idea is, it may actually be preferable to the alternative, that humanity is simply at the mercy of an advanced alien civilization, or collection of civilizations, ones that are not only highly advanced, but that appear to operate with a cold, calculated precision in their genetic makeup and in everything they do. What remains clear above all else is that cases of alien abduction are not something consigned to the early UFO era of the 1950s, nor are they products of the fragile state of consciousness and the search for meaning in faraway places of the 1970s. They are very much a phenomenon of our contemporary era, and they show every sign of continuing well into the foreseeable future. The truth and reality behind the UFO and alien abduction phenomenon may be many things, but whatever it is, it appears to be something that has been with us in one form or another since antiquity. If we can discover who these apparently alien creatures truly are, and why so many people are not just seeing them, but physically interacting with them, we may find ourselves closer to revealing the true nature of our collective reality, as well as where we fit within that reality and what the purpose behind it all might ultimately be,